Today we're going to learn lesson 1.3. So in our topic and objective, we're going to write lesson 1.3. And what lesson 1.3 is going to talk about is the order of operations. Make sure you write your name, class period, and the date as well, so that in case you misplace this sheet, I know who to return it to. All right, your learning target for today is going to be I can evaluate expressions. Okay. And what we mean by evaluating is just simplifying for today. Okay, some vocab that we're going to need to go over before we get started is what is an operation, because the order of operations. So we need to know what operations are to begin with. Well, operations for math are addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Okay. Those are our four operations that we use for math. So a numerical expression then is an expression or like a math problem that has only numbers and operations. Okay, what that means, what this is going to look like. Let's say 3 plus 4 times 2 minus 7. This is a numerical expression. It only has numbers and our operations for math. Okay, something that would not be an expression would be if it was equal to 14. Okay, because this equal sign immediately makes it an equation instead of an expression. Okay, so expressions are just, going to have numbers and operations. All right, you notice that in our learning target we have the word evaluate, so we need to know what the word evaluate means. This means to find the answer, so to solve. In some cases, such as today, this is going to also mean just to simplify it as much as possible. Okay. All right. So now we have the order of operations. So our lesson today is order of operations. So now we need to know what that is. All right. We use an acronym, meaning some symbols to represent other words, called PEMDAS. You may have heard of this before. PEMDAS. And there's reasons why the MD are next to each other and the AS is next to each other as well. Okay. One way to remember PEMDAS, if you can't just remember PEMDAS, since it's a very funny word, you may have seen up on my board yesterday, I had written out pranksters. Earn math detention after school. Okay, I've also heard students say, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. But this one is really easy to remember because it's pranksters earn math detention after school. That's kind of obvious, right? So that might help you remember the PEMDAS in that order because the order is very important. All right, now let's talk about what each of those letters is going to stand for. Okay, so P stands for parentheses. Parentheses. All right, parentheses are what you will always do first using the order of operations to simplify an expression. Okay, parentheses also includes groupings that aren't in parentheses, such as brackets. So you may see like those square looking parentheses, regular parentheses, which are rounded, and also a big division bar. So let's say we have 3 plus 4 on top and 9 minus 7. We would have to do what is on top first in order to move on to that next bottom piece. Okay, so we also move top down. All right, that is what our P stands for. Our E stands for exponents. And this is what we learned yesterday. It is something that's going to look like this, a power. Okay, so 3 to the 4th. So we would do any exponents second after we do all the parentheses and groupings. Okay, MD is going to be multiply or divide, as you may have guessed. And you can do this in any order. The reason why these are next to each other is because whatever comes first, you're going to do first. Okay, so we're looking, sorry, I shouldn't put an arrow on that side. We are going to do them left to right. Okay, just the same exact way that we read. Okay, what I'm talking about left to right is if we have 3 times 4 divided by 7, we would do 3 times 4 first and then divide it by 7. Or if I had 3 divided by 4 times 7, we still would do 3 divided by 4 first and then times 7. We just do them left to right, so they're kind of interchangeable. Okay. The ways that we show multiplication, there's many different ways that we can show multiplication, so it's very important that you know these ones. Okay, is the obvious the X that we're not going to use anymore, but some of these examples might use an X. So it could be an X. We don't use that. It could be a dot. So 8 times 4 could be 8.4. It could be 8, and then those little stars I was using, times 4. Or we can use parentheses, 8 and 4. When there's no operation in between a number and a parentheses, it's automatically assumed that it's multiplication. It will always be multiplication when there's not a symbol there. Okay. As for division, there's only really 2 ways that we show division. That is by our division symbol or by a fraction bar. Okay, so I'm gonna okay, so we may have 8 divided by 4 or 8 over 4, 8 fraction bar 4. Okay, those are both ways that we show division. All right. Now let's move back to our PEMDAS. We have our A and our S left, and that is add or subtract. Again, we are going to do this left to right. It's just like multiplication and division, where it can be changed depending on whatever comes first, left to right. Okay, left to right is just the same direction that we naturally read in. All right, that is the order in which we simplify expressions. Now we're going to do some examples to put some meaning behind this. Okay, so here we are giving a numerical expression. It only has numbers and it only has operations. All right, right here we have subtraction. Right here we have a little star, which means multiplication. One suggestion I'm always going to tell you to do is write out that PEMDAS on the side. Okay, and you're just going to go down the list because this is the order that we do it. So are there any parentheses, any groupings? Nope, so we're just going to cross off that P. Are there any exponents? Are there any numbers that have a power? Nope. So no exponents. Is there multiplication or division? Yeah, there's multiplication. There's no division though. So we're going to do that multiplication first. Okay, so we have 2 times 4. Well, 2 times 4 is 8. And I'm just going to copy down everything that I haven't used yet. We have to show all work one step at a time. Okay, so I can't do this all mentally and just write down the answer. I have to show that 2 times 4 is 8. 12 minus 8 then, which I have to go through. So we don't have addition. We have subtraction is 4. Okay, so we went through our order of operations. We simplified it down to as far as it could go, which is one number. All right, next example. Getting a little bit harder. Again, I want you to write that PEMDAS on the side. Pranksters earn math detention after school. Okay, so that P says parentheses. So the first thing we're going to do is whatever's inside parentheses. Right here we have some parentheses. Okay, one thing we need to remember is that inside parentheses, so when we have more than one thing inside parentheses, for example, here we have 7 plus and then 2 to the third. So we have addition and an exponent. Inside parentheses, we also follow PEMDAS, or our order of operations. Okay. So do we have parentheses inside these parentheses? Meaning, do we have more parentheses inside? No. Do we have an exponent inside these parentheses? Yeah, we have 2 to the third. And let's just remember, and I'm going to pull this to the side, 2 to the third is 2 being multiplied 3 times. So 2 times 2 times 2. Well, 2 times 2 is 4. Times 2 is 8. Okay, so now I'm just going to copy down everything that I haven't done yet. 30 divided by 7 plus, and instead of writing 2 to the third, I now saw that that's 8, so I'm going to simplify that to 8 times 6. Okay, I'm done with my inside, oh sorry, I'm not done with my inside parentheses. So we're done with our exponents. We still have, sorry, I'm going to undo that real quick. So I'm done with my exponents. I don't have multiplication or division inside these parentheses. I have addition, no subtraction. So I'm just going to add them. That's all that's left. So I have 30 divided by 8 plus 7, 15 times 6. All right. Now I'm going to go over my PEMDAS for the original problem. Okay, so we did our parentheses. No more parentheses. We are good. Now that we're done with our parentheses, we look for exponents. Are there any exponents, any powers? Nope, there is not. Now we look for multiplication and division. I see a multiplication sign. I also see a division sign. So when I see them both, I just move left to right. Okay, so I just do what comes first. So 30 divided by 15. 30 divided by 15 is 2. And then I copy down everything that I haven't used yet. You must show all of these steps in your work. All right. So now we are done with our division. And we just have multiplication left. So we do 2 times 6, which is 12. Done with that multiplication. No addition, no subtraction. We are finished. We got our final answer right here. Okay. Getting even harder. First step is going to be to write that pranksters earn math attention after school on the side. And we are just going to start. All right. This P stands for parentheses. So we are going to do what's in parentheses, which is 6 plus 1. So we're going to do 15 minus 4. Now I'm going to keep 6 plus 1 in parentheses. Okay, otherwise when I write it, it's going to look like this. And 4 parentheses 7 is not the same as 47. I'll talk about that in a second. Okay. If we go back to our notes above, what operation over here did we say uses parentheses with a number next to another number? They put one of the numbers in parentheses to show multiplication. Okay, so down here we have multiplication right here. So if you didn't want to keep it in parentheses, that's fine. Just make sure you don't write 47 because 4 times 7 is not the same as 47. Okay, so just, you don't have to use the parentheses, but just make sure you put a dot, a little star to show multiplication so you don't forget about that. Okay, so now we're done with our parentheses. Next we have our exponents. So we have one exponent right here, and we are going to simplify 2 squared. Remember, 2 squared is 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Then I'm going to copy down everything that I haven't done so far, showing all of my work for every step. No more exponents, so we are done with that. Next is multiplication and division. I see we do have multiplication right here, and we do have division here as well. Okay, multiplication and division, we just do left to right. So whatever comes first. So 4 times 7. 4 times 7 is 28. And I'm just going to copy down everything else I haven't done. I no longer have any multiplication. Next thing I'm going to do is division. So I have 28 divided by 4. Well, 28 divided by 4 I know is 7. And then I'm going to copy down everything that I haven't done yet. I'm done with my division. Last but not least, I do not have addition, and I do have subtraction. So I'm going to take 15 minus 7 to give me a final answer of 8. And we are finished. All right, we only have 2 more problems left, so hang in there. Here we have that fraction bar that I was talking about before. And we have to think, what operation did I say is that fraction bar? Well, that fraction bar is division. Okay, so just remember that when we get to that point, we have division. But I said that we need to do everything on top of that fraction bar first. All right, so let's write down our PEMDAS. All right. First thing we're going to do is parentheses. In parentheses, we have 3 plus 4. All right. So I have 8 and 7. Now I need to look here because this is not 87. I have a number next to a parenthesis, meaning that it's multiplication. Always multiplication. Okay, so I'm going to put in a dot this time to show my multiplication. So I don't get confused and thinks it's an 87. Then I'm going to copy down everything else. Done with my parentheses. Do I have exponents? I have no powers in here, so no. Do I have multiplication or division? Yes, I do. Okay, and like I was saying, even if this was 8 plus 7, we have to do what's on top of the fraction bar before we do the rest. So even if that was addition, we would have to do that top. We call this a grouping, like I referenced up here. Okay, groupings are brackets, parentheses, and that fraction bar. You have to do the top first. Okay, so down here, we have to do 8 times 7 first. 8 times 7 is 56. And then I just copy down everything else. All right, our last step, we are done with our multiplication. Our last step is that we are going to take 57, divide it, because the fraction bar is division, by 7. So 56 divided by 7 gives me a final answer of 8. And we didn't have any addition or subtraction. Right. Our last example is going to be a real-world application. Okay, so let's say that you are making a project for science class. You have to construct a model of our solar system, something that looks similar to this. Okay, so you buy foam spheres. Spheres are just like balls, okay, so they're 3D circles. You have to buy some paint bottles to spray them the right color and some wooden rods to stick into the sun to show how far away they are. Okay, they want to know what is your total cost of having to do this for this project. Well, we're going to use this table right here to help us know how much of each object we need to purchase. Okay, so it says right here we need to buy 9 spheres, 6 paint bottles, and 8 rods. Okay, to get that total cost, we're going to add the cost of the spheres to the paint cost and the rods cost, and that's going to give us our total. Okay, if we add up how much we're paying for each part, that's going to give us our total. All right. In order to know how much we spent on the spheres, we need to know how much it costs for one sphere, which is $2, and how many spheres we had to buy, which is 9. Okay, so we're going to write this as a numerical expression. You will have to do this on your quiz on Tuesday, so make sure that you understand how to do this. How many spheres are we buying? We are buying 9. What is the cost of each of those spheres? $2. So we multiply 9 times 2. Now these parentheses we don't need because of the order of operations. However, if you want to clean it up a little bit and put those parentheses in there, you can. Okay, so that's the cost of spheres. Then we have to add the cost of the paint. Well, we are buying 6 paint bottles. That costs $3 each. So we're going to multiply 6 times 3. Again, we don't need to put it in parentheses, but it makes it look a little neater. Last but not least, we have to add the cost of the rods. Okay, we're buying 8 rods at $1 each. Okay. Again, you don't need those parentheses because our order of operations tells us we have to do multiplication before we do any of that addition. So you'll get the same answer either way as long as you're following those order of operations. All right. We have 9 $2 items, which is going to give us $18. We have 6 $3 items, which again is going to cost us $18. Then we have 8 $1 items, which will cost us $8. When we add those three costs up, 18 plus 18 is 36, plus 8 more dollars is $44. This is our final answer for this example. All right, if there are any parts of this lesson that you were confused on, please go back and rewatch it. If you have any questions, make sure you're writing your questions in this area over here so that you remember to ask them, or you can just raise your hand and we'll be walking around to help answer your questions. Take a minute, write a quick summary about what you learned today, the order of operations. Make sure that you'd be able to hand this paper to a random person in the hallway and they would know exactly what you learned today in math class using this summary. Okay.